5 races remain in the regular season for the 2022 Outsider Racing League. And with the chase on the horizon, drivers prepare for a few more battles before their championship runs. Tonight's event takes place in Newton, Iowa, deep in the heart of racing country. It's a 150-lap event from dusk to nighttime in our final short track event of the season. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Sim TV. My name's Kyle Heyer, joined by Finian DeCuna and Connor Horn for tonight's final short track race of the season. Yes, you heard that right. This is the last time on a track sub 1 mile in the 2022 season here in Newton, Iowa. 150 laps. Less than that in terms of miles tonight, Finian, but this is going to be a fun one. We like racing here at Iowa. We like watching the transition from afternoon into evening. Always a fun place. Again, Newton, Iowa, population about 15,000. This track of relatively new construction. This is a fantastic place to watch racing tonight with a 16 or 17 car field, qualifying underway.
Yeah, absolutely. Already got some guys out on the track ready to get going. And as you mentioned, one of the last semi-short track races of the season. And this is the last time to see these guys get some beating and banging out of the way. I guess they could do some beating and banging at the rest of the tracks, but at, that typical short track beating and banging, this is the last place they're going to see it for the season. Imagine guys who've been waiting to get a win. We've had a few different winners this season, but guys waiting to get a win, sure, they're going to try to do their hardest to get their win. Final win, flag chase.
You talk about beating and banging, and you talk about turn number 4 here at Iowa. You see the marks on the wall at corner exit. This is a multiple groove racetrack. You'll see people running from the yellow line all the way up to the fence throughout the night. But at turn number 4, if you're on the bottom of the racetrack, it will sneak up on you, and you'll hit the fence in a hurry if you're not paying attention. Here's Andrew Telganoff in the number 3, who's struggling here in qualifying, but has had a really good season so far. So we'll be curious to see how he can do tonight, to see if he can get his season kind of back on track and really hunt down that 48 in the points. Jeff Wright has been rocking lately in that Lowe's Chevrolet. Here's Ryan Carwile, past winner, past champion, reigning champion this season, but he's got work to do, Finian, if he wants to be on top again.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's been pretty quiet in the last few rounds. Hasn't really made a whole lot of noises. Had some moderate finishes. So you see, as you mentioned, get back in the fight. Currently sitting 4th in the point standings and currently on his first of 2 flying laps. Working his way down the back straightaway into turns 3 and 4. And I imagine we're going to see a lot of these guys potentially slipping and sliding out at turns 3 and 4. Now, in fact, let's take a look at the weather for what we got this evening. 82 in the air, 86 on the track. So pretty cool by conventional means, and currently 5th fastest for the 71.
Yeah, we're going to see that track temperature continue to fall. Ambient's about 4 degrees below the track temperature. So we will see that surface temperature fall throughout the rest of the day as the shadows get a little bit longer. Zack Buchanan is back this week at the number 40, always a threat, but currently right now in 8th in qualifying. Not a super strong run, but Eric Hutton right to the top of the board at 23.82 will put him on provisional pole for the moment. We got Connor Horn here in the pits this weekend. Connor, welcome back. Tonight's race, 150 laps, and this is our final short track race of the season. So this is going to highlight some different drivers than we've been highlighting so far.
You know that about it. Kind of odd to have your final short track be barely halfway through the season, but that's how it's going to be. And it's almost not even a short track. It is, I believe, 3/4 of a mile. But Iowa race is anything but like a short track, sort of like Dover, but a mile or lower, but very fast cornering speeds, and aero matters so much, you don't really want to use the bumper like you would at a short track because you're just really going to mess your stuff up and you're not going to be at the front by race end. But if you do want to classify it as a short track, the guy to beat on these types of tracks would be Jeff Wright. He won at North Wilkesboro and Bristol back-to-back, so if he's thinking of the smaller tracks, you'd have to look to see him near the top of the pylon, although he is only 7th in qualifying. Just jumped up to 4th. The Stravato's coming around, but one of those tracks where you kind of want to run good, but also it doesn't matter too much if you don't run well because, like you said, we're not going to another track like this for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you bring up about this track. Not really racing a lot like a short track. By mileage standards, perhaps you could put it in that category, but it actually races kind of like a mini Kansas or a mini Chicagoland or a mini Las Vegas. It's got a lot of those characteristics, but it has that a similar look to Richmond Raceway, which is probably more correlated with the short track feel. So certainly a unique racetrack in its own right, and probably more towards the short track category just because of its length. But that will certainly highlight certain drivers like the number 48 of Jeff Wright, Finian. Wright is 5th in qualifying right now. Not a bad starting spot considering Jeff Wright's qualifying efforts the last couple of weeks. A 5th place starting spot is really good for him.
And just looking at Bailey Turney, went to provisional 3rd after his first lap, 2nd lap up on pole for the number 24 car. Was trying to take a look at Eddie Stravato running around the track. I guess he messed up on both of his laps because he's been kind of going around flying, putting some laps down, but nothing's registering. So I guess that he's used up his 2 attempts, so he's going to be starting from the back.
Yeah, we saw the 33 really close to the wall, so if you scrape that wall during your qualifying effort, even if it's just the slightest tap where one singular spark flies off of the car, that will invalidate your time. I think the 33 might have been a little bit too close to that fence, and we might see some grooves form later in this race as the rubber moves around and the temperature moves around in the racetrack here. But qualifying is complete. The 24 Bailey Turner will start on that front row. Really excited to see what we can get in here tonight in 150 laps. Connor will be down in the pits, so we'll see a little bit later as we get into the thick of things, but the track temperature is going to continue to fall. The moon's going to come out. We're going to highlight a short track for the final short track race of the season here at Iowa Speedway for the Outsider Racing League, round number 9 of the season. And as Connor pointed out, Finney, we are not even really halfway through the season in terms of race count. So at this point, you kind of established your heroes, and now it's just about finishing out the season.
Yeah, I was going to say, it kind of feels like we've been a long way through the season, but yeah, we still got a whole lot of racing to go. Riding tracks like Nashville, like Darlington coming up. Indianapolis Road Course will be the final road course race of the season. Tracks like Kansas, and then rounding out at Fontana. We got quite a bit of racing left to go, and I even missed a few tracks of the ones I've been listing off. We end in July, so plenty of racing left for these guys to go, whether they like it or not. And definitely the racing this season has been absolutely phenomenal to watch. So, guys, go through the starting lineup, I guess.
Yeah, let's kick things off on row number 1. Starting on the inside, that's going to be the number 24 of Bailey Turner. He'll start alongside the black number 88 of Eric Hutton.
And moving on back to row number 2, it's going to be Jeremy Miller next to Chad Klinger will line up in the second row.
And in row number 3, starting in 5th, I need one more advance on that graphic. There it is, Jeff Wright, the number 48. He'll roll off on the inside points leader coming into the night, and Brian Chambliss will start in 6th in that number 9 car.
Moving on back to 7th, Casey Licata is starting up well in the inside lane. Next to him in the right side lane will be Ryan Carwell in 8th.
Starting in row number 5, Ray Massey, the number 23. He'll start alongside Andrew Telganoff on the outside of row 5. It is number 3 Chevrolet.
Moving on back to the row number 6 and 11th place will be Zack Buchanan starting on the inside. Next to him, Jalen Parker, a new driver. I don't think we've seen him before. We're rolling off in the 18 car in 12th.
Yeah, we saw Jalen last week. I don't think he actually started. He was in the pits.
I wonder why I don't recognize him from last week.
Yes. Dale Adamson in the number 46 will roll off in 13th. Jared Dixon in the 98. We haven't seen him in a little while. He'll start on the outside of row number 7.
And we're moving on back to 15th. AJ Stravato is starting on in the 33 car. Going to be starting from the back, as we mentioned. Clifton Cock will be rolling off in 16th in the 14 car.
The last couple rows here, Zach Passett in the number 69 will start 17th, and David Mott Jr. will roll off 18th in the number 4. And rounding out the rest of the field, I think we've got one more driver perhaps, or is that all we got? Yes, John Rowland will roll off in 19th place in the number 96 car. This time through the lights will remain off on the safety car. We'll get one more trip around Iowa Speedway at pace speed before we turn everybody loose for 150 laps. And Finney, the start of this race is not as crucial as the end, but have a look at this track temp, already down a degree. But the air temp is going to stay pretty solid and standard. I think that track temp, though, will come down. It's not super humid out necessarily. An 8-mile-an-hour southeast wind, that won't play much of a factor here with the short straightaway speeds. The short and low straightaways speeds that we see here at Iowa. So that won't be a huge factor. The dropping track temp certainly will be here, especially the partly cloudy situation. We're not going to have that temperature rise at all like you'd see at some bigger tracks with more insulation on the back straightaway. So cars doubled up now. It's all Chevy on the front row. Bow ties in command. The 24 and 88 side by side. Finian rolling through turns 3 and 4. Pace cars will pull off. And round number 9 of the Outsider Racing League will kick off now. You're watching Sim TV. I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by Finian DeCuna and Connor Horn in the pits. Here we go. Turn 4. Pace car makes the hard left onto pit lane. The Outsider Racing League Iowa 150 is going green. Green flag flies. We're racing in Newton, Iowa. Lap 1 complete, already seeing a bunch of different lines formulating here, top to bottom. Everybody searching for grip in the early moments of this race. The 88 is side by side with Jeremy Miller. The 30 car's trouble has been on those long runs this season. We'll see if he can make it work. Even if he completes his pass, can he stay there in that purple number 30?
Yeah, that is going to be the really big question here. Looking also at Chad Klinger, almost looking like he wants to make it 3 wide, was having a look up that middle lane. Curious to see which lane is going to be the better one. A lot of guys potentially going to be looking at the top, trying to get the runs out of the corner to really keep the position, but Klinger moving to the bottom, trying to make that pass now for third as Miller's trying to hold on.
Yeah, wow, that's really tight through turn 2. There's a huge bump on the inside groove of turns 1 and 2. If you're down there and in the wrong spot, you can hammer that bump and slide up into the driver to your outside. So those are things to be concerned about here when you talk about what line you want to choose. Certain places, I think 3 and 4, you'd rather be on the bottom potentially to avoid that outside wall in turns 1 and 2. I think I'd rather be up top to avoid that nasty bump. You'll watch the 50 car hit it right there. See the car bounce as he goes through it, but he's side by side with last year's champion, Ryan Carwile, in the 71 Ford.
Yeah, Carwile trying to be on the attack of the 50, moving back up. These guys still not able to get separated. Miller trying to fight on the outside still, and actually getting a solid run off of 4, actually clear, I think, the 09. Indeed, he will, as Klinger falls back in line.
That's the power of that outside lane. You're going to carry so much more momentum. This track, again, it's pretty short, but it's pretty wide. So the difference between your outside line and your inside line in terms of distance traveled is pretty large. So the outside groove is going to allow you to have a lot more speed. There's the number 40 Toyota Supra, the Dairy Milk car, of Zack Buchanan, moving forward here early to the outside of the 3 at Telganoff. This is a battle for 10th. Right ahead of them, Ray Massey. That's the 9th place car in the number 23, that Ford Mustang.
Got a big dive, and I got to go back. Ticker's lighting up like a Christmas tree between these two as they were swapped times about 3 times in the corner. As Miller, I thought he was going to give up, or I thought Klinger actually was going to give up, but still not trying to fight on that outside. Essentially what Miller did. So that outside lane definitely the place to be in 3 and 4.
Yeah, it seems like it. And early going, I thought the bottom would be the place to be, but no, the top side is certainly on that end of the racetrack. We're actually seeing the opposite of what I would have expected in the early moments of this race, but the 30 will drop in line behind the 09. And don't look too far back. There's Jeff Wright, running that Cobalt livery this week, points leader coming in. And again, he's been rock solid at the short tracks. Typically this season, he started a lot further back in the field, but tonight starting 5th. We'll just hope that that isn't the peak of the success this evening. I think we're going to see him move forward.
And speaking of someone that did start deep in the field, AJ Strada already moved up 3 positions, now working on Telganoff. And talk about Telganoff, too. If you talk about the tear he's been on throughout most of the season, lost in the last few races, lost that points lead, back in 3rd at the moment, but not a particularly good start of the race. You see the 33 work to his inside.
Yeah, one of the other drivers we should mention, that one of the drivers that's not here, is Mitch Welker in the number 76. He was the winner last week at the Charlotte Roval, and it wasn't by a little bit. Mitch Welker is only 2 points behind Jeff Wright, put himself solidly between Jeff and Andrew Telganoff, but Mitch is not here this evening, so that's a notable exception and something that Jeff Wright can worry a little bit less about. His points lead isn't quite as volatile as perhaps he otherwise would have been if that 76 car was here.
Yeah, look, a really good battle here in the midfield. Not really checking the leaders too much, because we could check it on them for a second, but mostly Bailey Turner kind of checking out. Although looks like Eric Hutton's starting to reel him in, at least keep pace. The top 2 breaking away from the rest of the field.
Yeah, half a second at the moment. You can see it down a couple hundredths on corner entry, goes up a couple hundredths in the middle of the corner, but corner exits where it's important. You see the 09 and 30 going at it again, and behind the big slide by the number 9 at Chambliss. That was a big power slide out of turn 4, chasing Jeff Wright into turn 1. I've seen a lot of cars do that in qualifying as well. We were watching a couple drivers that had a lot of oversteer on corner exit out of 2 and 4. This is just a track where you're in the right gear at the right RPM at the right speed to really produce a lot of wheel spins. That's something you have to keep your eyes on all night.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about turn 4. I think just the way the nature where the turn opens up on exit, it's so tempting to just get back on the gas as soon as possible. But the way the corner is banked and the radius of the turn, it's very easy where the car just constantly tries to slide out when you put that power down. So you got to be very careful of it. You're not just going to be finding the car sliding out. You're going to be cooking those rear tires, and that's the last thing you want.
Yeah, look at Chambliss working up the racetrack now, up a groove from the 48. What's he going to learn here on corner exit? Watch the rear end.
He's going to learn there's a wall there.
It in there. Yeah, that's a battle you're going to lose every time, I promise you. That safer barrier is not a softer barrier, even though it might actually be functional like that. It's certainly not going to be the way that you want to end your night with some contact. Connor?
A lot of worry about a lot of these drivers, are the right front tires wearing. That's usually a problem at Iowa. You really can't make a loose setup here. It's just always push, 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 and that right front takes the brunt of the hit all the time. That's what Eric Hutton's been talking about at the start of this race. He wants to chase down Bailey Turner, but he's just too worried about wearing that right front out too early. The fuel window is about 70, 75 laps. That's a full tank. We'll probably see drivers pit a little bit earlier if they can't stretch it to halfway, but you got to keep that right front on, and that's what the 88's worried about.
Yeah, one of the things we were just talking about before you got in here, Connor, was we were watching a couple drivers, Brian Chambliss included, power sliding on corner exit. So I think, you're talking about how it's impossible to make a loose setup. I think, the cars will push and understeer big time through the corners, and you've got so much wheel in it and so much throttle on exit that you're just going to create that snap oversteer, not from the setup, but just because of your control inputs, trying to keep the car from pushing. So that's a really interesting point. It's that right front tire that's going to wear out through the most of the corner, and it's that right rear and the right rear quarter panel that's going to get the workout on the wall when you're trying to save it from pushing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's usually always the case here. Almost guaranteed to get a setup like that here. It's just so hard to set up for a track like Iowa. So unique compared to other tracks on the circuit. And you're pretty much spot on about the wheel input. You're turning so hard just to get it to rotate to that yellow line. You have a dotted white line at the way top. And then you're still turning, you get to the exit, and oh wait, it's sliding, save the car, don't hit the right rear on the wall, don't spin into the inside wall, something like that. Just one of those tracks where it's just such an anomaly where you're going to be doing one thing, and then on the corner exit, you're going to have to be doing the absolute other. It's always going to be that right front causing that issue, but sometimes it could be a real pain in the you-know-what to sort of control it.
Here comes Buchanan down the inside for 8th on Licata, side by side. Look at the 50 squeezing up to the outside, Finian, as they battle off turn 4. I think the 50's got the advantage for now.
Yeah, and we've seen that outside lane again, typically being the place to be for a lot of these guys. It's so easy to defend. A lot of times when you see an IndyCar, a lot of guys just running that outside lane because you get such a good run off the corner. And these guys in the stock cars, a little bit heavier, doing pretty much the same thing, just keeping that momentum off the corner, and was able to keep the 40 at bay for now.
I'm not sure for how much longer, though. Again, this is kind of an exercise in futility when you got a car that might be a little bit slower. You're burning off the tires at a slightly different rate. If someone's behind you, how long do you hold them back there for? It's still early in the race. Should you move over and let them go and fight them later, or are you willing to fight that fight this early in the race to keep yourself at a good point? Here's a battle for position. This is the 3 of Talganoff on the outside, and to the inside comes the 33 of AJ Stravado, continuing his forward climb. Now, AJ is an interesting driver. For the longest time, several seasons in ORL, it has been a real struggle for AJ. A couple seasons ago, he hit magic and was just unstoppable, crushing everybody. And now this season, he's only raced a couple of times. This is only his 4th start of the season. Most drivers have started 8 races, but Stravado, we haven't really seen a lot of. He's back in 19th in points. 3 starts, and 2 of those were top 5. So whenever he starts, he's a threat, and right now he's moving that direction.
Yeah, and I was going to say, this is the same thing we were talking about earlier with Casey and Zack Buchanan. With Stravado just working that inside lane, that's, I think, the 3rd attempt we saw on screen of him trying to pass Telganov, has just not been able to get it working. I'm sure the 3 knows that. He's been keeping Stravado stuck to that inside line. You can see up in front, Licata's still keeping Buchanan at bay. Checking in on the leaders yet again up near the front. Jeff Wright over the back of the 30 car of Jeremy Miller.
You know what I've noticed, Finian? We haven't really seen anybody passing yet. It seems like it's really hard to get any speed differential in order to make passes. You can choose different lanes and you can get alongside, but to actually complete that is pretty tricky. Jeff Wright opens the door to the outside of the 30. Now he'll have a run down to the inside in turn 1, and this might be the first pass we've seen in a while. Here he comes into turn 1 on the bottom of the racetrack. The 30 shoots for the middle. Watch that bump, though, for the 48 right there. Gets through it nicely, and it's a drag race off turn 2.
Yeah, I'm sure if we had a statistic and more advanced graphics, you could probably see that. I think the majority of the passes happen in the first 10 laps. Last 10 laps, not a whole lot. Few here and there, but few and far between. I think a lot of it is what Connor was talking about with guys getting scared of burning up that right front. I think they're trying to conserve as much as they can. They have more than enough tire sets. They have 4 tire sets available, but these laps are going to tick by very quick, and you don't want to pit too often. You're just going to lose a lot of track position. So guys are going to be trying to carry the fuel and the tires as well as much as possible.
Yeah, low 20-second laps. The laps certainly click off very quickly here as we work our way through. About a 1/6 of the way through at the moment, if you're counting. Here comes the 30 back to the inside of the 09. This is a pass that Miller's been trying to do for some time. 1 minute, Miller's the hunted, others the hunt. He's the hunter, so he's kind of bombing around between 3rd and 5th and hasn't really settled immediately. There's not a lot of consistency out of the 39, but we've seen this story all season where he shoots out of a cannon in the first 25 to 50 laps and then is usually a non-factor past halfway. So that's his goal tonight, is don't burn your stuff up and try to be a factor towards the end of the race where they pay out all the points.
Yeah, we'll see what he can do. I mean, he's looking good so far, but you can tell visually by the way he's driving, he's pushing that car and definitely not saving his tires. So, and like you said, a lot of times he'll do really good at the beginning and then he'll drop like a rock through the field once the tires burn off. So that's the big concern, because it's looking like history is repeating itself, but for now he's looking so far pretty good. Definitely has a top 5 car. Jeff Wright trying to change that a little, has been sitting behind, no success in trying to make a pass happen yet.
Yeah, he hasn't really gotten on top of the wheel to go run down the big crash. Turn 1, the 18, and is that the 33 that's involved? Oh, that is big trouble for AJ Stravado. We were just talking about him, and that's terminal damage for the 33. Here's a look at it. Down into turn 1. Did the 18 pop out a lot? Oh, he gets into the rear of him and turns him hard into turn 1, and he's going to snap back and slam into the 18. Big crash here early in the stage at Iowa.
Yeah, curious what caused that or what happened there.
There had to be another side of that story, right? That's a huge crash.
I guess we'll look at turns 3 and 4. Maybe it was something in the making, although I didn't notice the 18 anywhere close to him. Right on board with the 18, see what happened. If he just kind of thought he was going to ride the outside.
Right here, just gets into the back, it just turns him around, and then the snapback slams into the 18. Connor, what you got?
Not much information, but these two had been racing hard for laps prior. Stravado sort of struggling. Parker was definitely looking faster. Never contact before this as far as I've seen. Could have been an honest mistake. Could have been the 18 kind of getting frustrated, but it looked like AJ made sure that Jalen Parker didn't get away with that, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, getting frustrated. It's lap 28. We got a long way to go, guys, but
yeah,
that was certainly a big crash. That's definitely terminal damage for at least the 33, and likely not great for the 18 either. But pit stops this early in the race, Connor. I think you were mentioning those right side tires. This is a great opportunity to check the tire wear that you're seeing on that right side.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. And, Judge, since I was joining on a certain driver, I'm not going to say which driver I joined on, just to be more live with everything. I could check tire wear a little bit, or at least try to. Not too bad. Is actually, for the driver I'm on, pretty even on the right sides, and his left side's really not looking too damaged at all. So might see that come into play later, get a late race yellow, see a 2-tire stop, which I think we saw in the last race here work out for Adam Cabot. If I remember correctly, he won that last race that we did here in January of 2021. So, like you said, very good opportunity to see what the tires are doing, and you might take that into account for your strategy later in this one.
Yeah, and already some strategy being played out here right up at the front of the field. And you see Zack Buchanan, who took some tires. Jared Dixon right ahead.
I don't think he did, because actually...
He did not take tires.
Yeah, that's not what I was trying to pull up.
He's got soft tires on, just in case you were wondering.
Oh, I thought this showed the time.
I forgot about the compounds we were using today.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought that I was trying to pull up the graphic for showing the pit stop. I thought it showed the time. It just shows the laps they came in. So he had a 6.5-second pit stop.
Just right sides?
I don't even think that's right sides. I think that's just fuel. I think that's too quick. Wouldn't right sides be... Or maybe it was. I feel like right sides would be like almost 8 seconds, though, right?
That was a fast right side stop if it was. But either
know,
way,
Connor, can you go check and see if the right sides went up?
Trying to get down to the virtual 40 pit stall. I did not see the right sides go up, so I can't imagine that would be.
Drink your rowdy energy and get running down there, man. This is a cushy job compared to the real world, man. I've done that. Indianapolis' pit lane is a long one. You better get up on your horses and go for it.
I was going to say, imagine you awkwardly running down the pit lane.
I got to get in virtual running shape for that, so see if I can do that.
Kyle's got to get into actual running shape for that.
Here's the funny story. When I announced the Indianapolis for Pirelli GT4 America last October, they tell you on the entry list what pit stall the team is pitted in. Well, I don't know what the pit stall numbers are, because in the oval, they're counted one direction, and the road course, I didn't know if they were counted the same direction or if they went the other way, which I still don't even remember what it was. I just remember that it was very confusing, and I couldn't figure out which pit stall 2 was. Was it turn 1 side, or was it the road course turn 1 side? I don't think I'll ever know, but that was a big challenge that weekend, I remember. That was certainly a tricky one. Well, coming back to the green this time. Short cautions here, which is great. We're just past the 1/5 mark of this race now. As we roll through turn number 4, Zack Buchanan is in command. Bailey Turner to the outside. Then it's Hutton, Klinger, Jeremy Miller, and Jeff Wright. Green flag back in the air, racing again here at Iowa. And the 40 clears the 24, and we'll have a clean run down into turn 1.
Yeah, going off, and I guess I got to imagine thinking about it again. I would be surprised if he did not take right side tires. We'll see if it'll help him anything or if he needs the lefts as he's trying to hold up Bailey Turner heading down to turn number 3.
Yeah. I would think that you're going to need all 4 tires. The left sides are pretty critical to getting grip on the inside. And here's the 24. He's going to get split 3 wide on exit. The 88 has to back out of it. Slams on the binders out of turn 4 to not run into the 40. That's going to let Klinger get through to second. That was wild stuff out of 4.
It's still wild stuff. Buchanan just trying to hold on to position at the moment, just trying to hold on for anything he can. Got Jeff Wright just inside, Miller, and then Hutton in behind. So he's kind of boxed in all sides as Hutton's going to go around the outside, 3 wide.
Oh, that's dicey stuff in a tight corner. The 40 car is in trouble, so that is an experiment that has not worked. The 71 is jammed up behind him. Here comes Chambliss to the inside. Lakatos is going to try to follow him down there as well, but this is creating a traffic jam. So much understeer from the 40. That is not working out for him.
Yeah, everyone just absolutely swarming on the start. He's just trying to find a place in lane there. He kind of slots himself in, but now you see the 23, Ray Massey, trying to work to his outside. He can't catch a break. Everyone's passing on the left. Everyone's passing on the right.
And contact from the 3 of Talganov. Looked like they threw some ballast in the car during the pit stop or something. Got 150 pounds of lead in the rear, whatever. But here's the 30 on the outside of the 88. That's Miller going to 4th place now with the 88 of Hutton right behind him. Big slide from the 50 out of turn 2. But note that Wright has jumped up to 3rd, is now looking for 2nd through 3 and 4.
Yeah, and Klinger hanging on that on the outside. Hutton trying to make up some places that he lost down on pit lane. And now here comes Chad Klinger trying to look to his inside as he moved up into 2nd. Now has a chance at the lead.
So it's Turner, Klinger, Wright, Miller, and Hutton, your top 5 on board with Klinger now as we chase the leader down the back straightaway. Klinger's had moments of success, but hasn't really translated it to race-winning capability quite yet. But he's got the points leader right to his inside corner panel out of turn 4. Turner, Klinger, and Wright, 1, 2, 3, and a short distance back to find the purple number 30 Supra of Jeremy Miller. But nose to tail now, following each other through 1 and 2.
Yeah, all together. Oh, a little bit of an internet glitch. Uh-oh.
Yeah,
back there
good.
he is.
Well, Klinger on the outside and the 48 still to the inside. Klinger's season so far, his best finish was 4th back at Watkins Glen, 6th at Atlanta. Every other finish has been on the outside of the top 10, 10th or worse. And, it's kind of surprising because we always talk about Klinger in the first half of the race. Maybe it's kind of the Jeremy Miller syndrome where you start up front, you run up front, and then by the end of the race, you kind of fade into obscurity.
Yeah, and here comes Jeff Wright looking to the outside. It looks like he's going to easily get that done with really little to no effort. Klinger giving up a lot of time. Here comes Miller trying to take advantage. He's going to go diving away into turn number 1.
Yeah, that was just smelling the blood in the water and taking a bite right there for the 30, slipping up the inside and grabbing the position. And behind them, the 88 and 9 going to battle. That's Hutton and Chambliss. But looks like Hutton got a good enough run out of 2 to prevent that pass from happening. Look at Carwile trying to sneak up underneath, but Lakatos prevented him. They're stuck the nose in, so he couldn't go top to bottom and kind of run down the hill at the exit of 4.
Yeah, looking at the positions, not a whole lot of big movers in the top 10. Only 4 drivers have moved position. Jeff Wright actually gaining the most position, started back in 5th. Up in the 2nd. Everyone else has only really gained 1 or 2 positions or none at all. So it's kind of similar to what you're talking about earlier. Not a whole lot of passing going on, although we may see a pass here really shortly. Here we go, dive to the inside.
Down into turn 1, the 48 and the 24. Door to door, look out for the race lead. Not quite enough to get that pass done. Connor's on pit lane. Connor, what you got?
One thing surprising comparing Eric Hutton's tires to Bailey Turner's tires. Bailey Turner was mainly running the bottom through 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But we saw Eric Hutton running that higher line through 3 and 4. Hutton's tires were actually a little bit better than Bailey Turner's, which is surprising me. Not something you usually see running the outside being better on the tires in iRacing, but that's what it looked like for the 88. And trying to look down through the order, trying to see where Zack Buchanan is. Oh yeah, 14th place, well off the pace. Heard him make one comment, said, "Pro tip, take tires." But one thing to say about that is that we do have one less set. There's supposed to be 4 changes of tire sets. There are only 3, so that would only give you about 42 laps on each set. So if the race falls in his, if the race falls the right way, it works in his favor. But
yeah, so
far.
So he didn't take any tires at all.
No, he did not.
Okay, well, that was clear.
Yeah, okay.
I think once we hit green, I think that made sense to me. Well, Connor, thanks for that update. As we hit lap 43, that's that marker that you said. But again, I didn't expect to see a caution at the time that we did. I was expecting to see a lot of green flag running, and that's typical here for this group. We see a lot of green flag racing at a track like Iowa, so there's always a potential for those late race cautions and green-white checkers fitting in, but we just don't really see them a lot, especially this season. The number of cautions has been way down. So what that means is that, I think that was a safe play by the 40 at this stage in the race if we get late race cautions, but that's a gamble in its own right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious to see, what these guys got planned with the strategy. We saw that caution come out. Obviously, we lost 3 cars. Servato and Parker both out.
Ooh. Jeff Wright was out there for about 5 or 6 seconds.
He's been flashing quite a bit over the last 3 or 4 laps. I'm sure he's probably just as nervous as he's making move to the inside side by side coming off of turn 4.
Yeah, I think Turner's also nervous because when Wright disappears, you never know where he's going to reappear with that internet issue. So if Wright drops out of this could be a pretty big points hit for him. Again, the driver he's really battling is Talganoff down in 10th. So if Wright has a really bad night and finishes outside of the top 15, there might be a decent gain by the 3. I don't think he's in danger of losing the points lead tonight or anything, but it certainly wouldn't be a good time to squander your momentum after the last couple of weeks being pretty good.
Yeah, and I also just want to mention too, Mitch Welker is currently second in the point standings. He's out on a crossing.
Yep.
So that's why he is
doing real life stuff.
Yeah, he's driving real life cars, not virtual cars. But virtual cars are currently side by side for the lead here.
Yeah, they are. Here comes the 48 again, pulling even with Turner. But again, I like that outside groove in 3 and 4 at this stage of the race. You see how the shadows are coming up over the wall as well. So that's also kind of shading the top groove and keeping the track temperature cooler. When we see a track temperature rating, that's an average. It's actually not an average. I think it's actually a probed temperature from a random spot on the surface.
Oh, is it actually? I thought it was an average.
I think so. I think they take it from somewhere. I don't know where it's from. But I don't think it's an average temperature. I think it's a probed spot, which is why you see it vary so wildly at places like Indianapolis, because even though Indianapolis has a lot of racetrack, if the one half of the track was shaded and the other was sunny, you wouldn't see that temperature shift a lot, Finian. But we see it drop 20 degrees in 5 minutes. That would not happen as an average across the entire place. An interesting thought experiment. But you see 3 and 4, though, how it's a little bit cooler over there because of the shade. That's going to make that top groove a priority here for the next couple of laps.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing with iRacing, with the way those shadows do matter. It is going to be a little warmer on one side, a little cooler on the other. How much cooler? Probably not, considering the air temperature again is 82 and the track temperature from that wherever it is probed is at 86. So I don't think it's going to be too significant of a difference, but definitely a little bit. Definitely enough for the drivers can maybe feel it a little bit, especially once the tires start to get worn out.
Yeah, it's not something that you're going to be like, oh, wow, it's so much grippier over here. But it's subconsciously you're going to notice that your car is a little bit better handling on one half of the track versus the other. You might not even consciously think it. You're just going to drive differently and have a little bit less tire wear from that particular area of racetrack. It's still hot and heavy for the race lead here, though. Here comes the 48, and bring the 30 of Miller back into this mix. These short runs have been good for that 30, as we have already crossed the 1/3 mark of this race. It's going by really quickly. They run nose to tail off into turn 1.
And even Brian Chambliss has come back in as well. So the entire top 6, you can see right there in frame, they've broken away from the field. And they're all pretty much nose to tail. Their entire top 6 is just about within a second of the leaders. So I'm really surprised that Wright keeps going for the inside. I'm sure he knows that that's probably not going to work long term, but he's been going down there anyway. And I just got to wonder that it's probably not going to be helping him out long term. I feel like it's going to wear out his tires more, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think it'd be smart for him to try to use the upper groove, just if nothing more to experiment. We haven't really seen Wright kind of riding the rim like the 24 car is right now, so it'd be good to learn how to do that and get up there and get some experience up there before the end of the night. But he's going to consistently try this bottom and hope the 24 makes a misstep. On board with Klinger back and forth as he closes in on Miller for third. You're right, this whole lead is accordioning back together. I'm not sure if this 24 is quite as strong as he was previously. The second run has swung in the 48's favor, and I think the 30 might be holding up this train right now.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of hungry cars in behind the number 30, mainly Chad Klinger and even Eric Hutton, who's now starting to look to Miller's inside as Klinger goes up top. Ooh, Klinger having to get out of the throttle hard to make sure he doesn't hit the wall, and you see Eric Hutton going to take advantage of that, going to try to dive to the inside and one.
Yeah, big lift for Klinger there, and that was just one of those panic lifts. And, thankfully he managed to catch it in time. Typically, you'll see this a lot in Indy cars as well. You at places like Indianapolis, well, you get off the corner at speed in the throttle, and by the time you lift, it's too late. The car's already committed no matter what you do. So that was a really good catch by the 09 to come off the wall and not run into it while he's kind of racing those around him and not racing the racetrack. Big bump through turns 1 and 2. Wright is still tucked on the tailpipes of Turner. But I think it's also good to keep the goal in mind for Jeff Wright. Is it to win every single race, or is it just to establish a strong points lead? If he stays where he is, he's doing that already, but he wants a little bit more.
And looking back here, it looks like Brian Chambliss got around Chad Klinger. Klinger dropping back hard all the way back to 6th place. Not sure what's wrong with the 09. Maybe if he's burned up his stuff a little bit too early in the run, as we see Chambliss, Hutton, now Hutton and Miller actually starting to get separated away from each other.
Yeah, that was probably, he was driving really hard in that group of cars, so that lift, that panic, that he might have been sliding the car around, that could have heated those tires up just enough to bring him out of the mix for now. This lead is not over yet. I think Wright's a little quicker than Turner. He's just got to pick the line that will suit him the best. You see him kind of training up the racetrack through turns 1 and 2 to try to get the quarter panel of the 24 kind of right off his bumper, but he's not able to fully establish overlap on the turn 1 and 2 area of the racetrack where everyone's running the bottom. He catches the 24 and 3 and 4, then can't run a different line in order to make that pass stick.
Yeah, I will say I have noticed a lot of these guys have been running a higher line, it seems, on entry, or at least in 3 and 4. And 1 and 2, they're running down low. That's typically fastest right around the track. But by the time they get to turns 3 and 4, a lot of them are kind of turning in a lot later, keeping a higher line, and turning in lower, or just kind of riding up here. And it looks like pretty much everyone is staying up on that higher line. You can see the entire top 6, 7, 8, Telgenoff, the first driver you usually see going low still.
Yeah, and I think at turn 1 and 2, it seems like the polar opposite, right? You've seen Jeff Wright has actually fallen into Turner's line in 3 and 4. Then 1 and 2, everyone's kind of mid-track to low and apexing right over that bump. You can actually see where the rubber lifts for a second. There's less rubber because everyone's airborne over that bump. It's pretty significant, but you're just going to have to drive through it at this stage of the race. As we approach and to finishing lap number 60, Miller is training back in on these front 2 again. He's separated from Hutton and is tracking down the front 2, but is he able to be there consistently? He's just kind of been in and out of this front paddle all night long.
Yeah, time will tell, I guess, right? Because I'm sure, especially with that first one, looking at Hutton and Jeremy Miller especially, with the tire, we were talking about him potentially falling off. It looks like this run he's been playing it a lot more conservative, maybe because he got a chance to reset, maybe see how bad the tire wear was and adjust his driving style accordingly. But I guess he feels also now that he's up in third, right behind the leaders, doesn't really need to push the envelope. He's just kind of sitting in for the ride. But I think he's a really big sleeper and sitting in that third place spot.
Certainly. Jared Dixon is out of the race in 15th place. Didn't see why he is out, but he is officially retired from the event. As the two leaders, again, just inches from each other through 3 and 4. Not a clear advantage to either at the moment. They continue to run nose to tail, but Turner has been in command for most of this race. Connor, what you got on pit lane?
Just Jeff Wright kind of getting, I wouldn't say frustrated, but still trying to brainstorm ways to get by the leader, Bailey Turner. He pretty much said that the only way he's going to clear him is by doing some sort of slide job, although he really hasn't had the opportunity to do that yet. And a few comments on handling. Randomly, Telgenoff sort of surprised that he's getting a little bit loose off the corners. And Brian Chambliss saying it's almost majority loose for him and saying it just randomly gets tight. So he's feeling more loose than tight with a 9.
Yeah, something that we were talking about earlier was, how much wheelie got cranked in it. But as the track temperatures fall, you're going to gain grip, especially in 3 and 4. And when you gain that grip, you're carrying a little bit more speed. And the faster you're going, the quicker things get out of control, whether it's understeer or oversteer. So that's going to be something to keep our eye on all night long. Working lap 65. Connor, the 48, frustrated, thinks he has to do a slide job. How do you do a slide job at a track like this?
It takes a while to set up, and I wouldn't say he's frustrated, but he was really just brainstorming ideas to get by him, and that's the conclusion he came to. It really takes almost a lap or two to really set up. You have to really pretty much get to the leader's bumper. In this case, he'd have to get the Bailey Turner's bumper at some point, and then he really wants to get some sort of run on him out of turn number 4. Maybe if Bailey pulls to the inside through 3 and 4 at one point, that's when you'd want to run the top, get the run off 4, get to the inside of him in the turn 1, then get a really good run, the best run you can on the inside of him through 1 and 2, so you can stay even or at least halfway around. And then you'd probably, if you have the positioning, you'd pull that slide job off in the 3 and 4. Looked like he wanted to try something there, but couldn't do it. But like I said, it takes almost about a lap or 2 to set up at a track this short.
Can he get to the outside of Turner in 3 and 4, or is there too many marbles up there? He have to be right up against the wall. Is that a valid line, or does he just think the bottom's the place to try it?
I don't know if I think it's too big of a risk to go to the outside because Bailey Turner, he can just squeeze him up and maybe wall the 48, not even meaning to, because I mean Bailey's giving a lot of room there, but you really don't want to go up there to make a risky move like that. I just don't think it would be faster. I don't think he'd get overlap on the 24 through turns 3 and 4 to even attempt that. He might be able to get a run doing an over-under through 1 and 2, but I don't think he's going to be able to get to the right rear of the 24. I don't think Bailey will let that happen.
Well, something to keep our eyes on as we approach halfway at lap number 75. We're going to dish out some points to the top 7 Finians. That's something to keep in mind with Carlisle and Massey, 7th and 8th right now. But the front 2 are going to continue to fight as we work our way towards that halfway point. As you saw a minute ago, Turner has led all but 4 laps in this race. But here comes Miller. Now, he could be the odd man out here, and Hutton for that matter, bringing 3rd and 4th place cars into the mix. That's going to put pressure on the 48. But also, it could prevent the 48 from making a move in fear that he might lose more spots behind him.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless something major happens, I really feel like our winner is going to come from this top 4. Maybe you could throw Chad Klinger into the mix as well. Those 5 cars are really the best-looking cars at the moment. They've been consistently in the top 5 this entire race. I mean, haven't really even changed. Some of them haven't even changed spots since the green flag dropped. But yeah, I'm really curious to see how Wright is going to get around Bailey Turner. I guess he's probably going to have to wait till the pit stops happen and get it done down on pit lane, because at the moment that 24 is a hard car to pass.
Well, Bailey Turner has missed 1 race this season. That's probably why he's not leading the standings. He has not finished.
Even then, though, he's 5th.
Right. I mean, he's 5th in the standings, but he has not finished, other than his 13th at Daytona, which we all know Daytona isn't a real racetrack. Thanks, Kyle. He has not finished worse than 5th, and that was last week at the Charlotte Roval. Every other finish has been 2nd, 4th, or 5th. So it's been a really good season for Bailey, and again, towards the end of the season, when he kind of works off that deficit, he could really be a threat. He's been solid and extremely consistent this season. So let's keep that 24 car in the mix as well. So I think Jeff Wright has been, he's not stupid. He'll know that the 24 has been in the mix, and this is going to be a battle that they're going to fight out pretty hard here. Here they go again. That's really tight, that middle groove.
Whoa,
look at Miller fighting for it out of turn 4. That was a big moment.
I was going to say, he was definitely like a shark in the water earlier. He was coming up on Wright pretty quickly. I thought he was attempting to make a move, but at the moment, it looks like he's got to deal with his own issues with the car trying to get a little loose. And also, it's noticeably getting fairly dark in the sim. Light's probably going to come on in just a few laps as we're just shy of halfway here.
It's like he's trying to climb up a greased pole. Like every time he gets there, he slides back down.
I'm telling you, that throttle, it's very tempting. Just jump on it.
It really is. You got 675 horsepower under your right foot. You're going to go for it. But again, every time he gets close, it seems like it slips out of his fingers, and he's back to fighting Hutton for 3rd. Look at the sunset over turn 3 here at Iowa Speedway here in Newton. Look at this battle. This is an important one here. This is for 6th and 7th, and Massey's 8th in 2 laps' time. We're going to dish out points to the top 7. This matters a lot. Can Carlisle grab 6th away from Chambliss? That's the pass happening. But can Massey potentially grab one of these spots? They got 1 lap to sort it.
Yeah, 1 lap to sort it for these guys. As you see Carlisle trying to stick it on the inside in 1 and 2. Going to lose that run off the corner. Probably taking a look at the leader, see if anything crazy happens. I don't think we're going to see anything too crazy from these guys here. I think they're more or less going to come as they've been running. And across the line officially halfway through this race, Turner, Wright, Miller, Hutton, top 4 with Chad Klinger rounding out your top 5, and Chambliss and Carlisle rounding out your top 7. Massey wasn't quite able to get there.
Yeah, they ended up sorting themselves out to how they were prior to that last lap dash there. So it looks like Chambliss will hang on for now. Carlisle's advance has expired. Look at 3rd or 2nd place rather again. They're still fighting. Ooh, big slide again for the 30, and that's going to work out that right rear tire, and you don't want to overheat that. That's something we'll have to keep an eye on. If Miller keeps roasting that right rear tire on corner exit, he's going to have a bad time towards the end of this run. Also remember, we restarted back at lap number 30. It's been 47 laps since we've seen a pit stop, so let's start to think about that. Not completely on the horizon yet, but just think about the position you're going to put yourself in.
I just want to look at his wheel inputs off the corner. Look at him kind of teasing the wheel a little bit. Off of 2, he was really putting on a lot of right input. I want to take a look again and see how much he's sliding.
Yeah, 1 and 2, he looks pretty composed here. There's the bump. He actually navigates very nicely.
Whoa.
And there's a little bit of a righty steering input off of turn 2, then down into 3. See, turn. You see the understeer right here, puts in the wheel, gets on throttle on corner exit, then right here, back to the right, just kind of sawing at it. It's subtle, but inside the car, it feels like you're out of control for a couple of seconds when you're back on throttle. Here's the race leader, Bailey Turner. through turn 1. There's the bump off of turn 2, and he exits a lot lower. A little bit of a right correction there, but that's just to keep the car on the racing line, not so much a slide. Look at it. He's loose into turn 3. You see the wheel to the right there?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's so interesting to see different driving styles for these guys. I mean, they've ridden nose to tail, but completely different driving styles, and it's been having quite a different effect on the tires by the way they've been putting in the wheel input. So you can see Turner loose in, Miller loose off, Wright, I guess somewhere in the middle. Haven't really seen him a whole lot loose because half the lap we can't even see him. He's been flashing in and out. It's been getting really concerning. Have we seen him? Did we see him flash out of one race?
I think we've seen him flash out a couple of times in the far past, but it's certainly not going to help him out if it continues to happen. So it's just something. It just makes you nervous, right? I mean, if he's not seeing that and he's on the racetrack, then that's no big deal. But if that could be very distracting if it's happening on his end as well.
And lights are officially on with a beautiful sunset up.
Nope,
should really not.
The lights on.
Someone turned the lights on and turned his car off for a second
Whoa,
there.
Whoa, there's a big slide. He's at the 48. Power slide out of turn 4. He's got the rear tires kicked up sideways.
Yeah, he's starting to push it a little bit more.
The volatility has come down, though, right? It looks like he's getting a little bit more desperate on throttle because he's losing grip on the 24.
Which, again, is not surprising the amount of side-by-side he's been trying to make with that. I guess his tires were going to give up at some point, probably earlier than the others. And now here comes Miller. I think he's smelling the blood in the water as the 48's almost wrecking loose off of turn 4. And here comes Miller. Is he going to try to make a look? Doesn't it look that time by?
Yeah, you can tell the 48.
Sorry, Jack Klinger. He dropped out of the top 5 battle and drifted back closer to Ryan Carwell and Ray Massey, and then has come back in these last few laps, so now he's back in the mix.
Brian Chambliss on pit lane, the number 9. That's an early stop. The 40 car is also coming on down. I think he already was on down pit lane, so he's come in. And that's going to be a scheduled stop for both of these cars. I would think that they're going to try to hit the end of the race with just that stop. That they're going to be good to the end. Buchanan is a lap down at the moment, and as is Chambliss. They're going to roll out of pit lane and rejoin the racetrack. Pretty short pit lane here, so that's going to help you in these green flag runs. But at this stage of the race, you're good to the end if you stop here. So now it just matters when you come to pit lane. Connor?
Last pit stop for these guys was under that yellow at around lap 29, lap 30. So if you wanted to split this race in pretty much half, you pit around lap 90. You've already seen Brian Chambliss come down to the pit lane. I believe Dale Adamson came down as well. 40 car came in for his first set. And Jeff Wright was saying a few laps ago that he's probably getting close to getting ready to come in. We'll have to see what he does. Kind of figure that he wants to kind of try to short pit Bailey Turner, try to get in front of him, but don't want to pit too early for him if he wants to get that lead and keep it. So we're getting pretty closer to all these guys coming in.
Yeah, and we were just mentioning, Connor, that this is a one-stop race. You're just, one stop from our first pit stop. You could have gone basically the entire race on just the one stop, but with that early caution, we had a couple actually everybody came down, got tires and fuel, and now it's just going to be one stop all the way to the end. This is a pretty short race, even by ORL standards, which they're usually kind of sprints. So from here to the end, you're just going to go all the way, and so you got to take care of your stuff. And I've actually been impressed with Jeremy Miller tonight, Connor. He's stayed up in the mix past the halfway point, which has been a struggle point this season.
The struggle point this season, it's a lot of times a struggle point for him to even be in this position at this point. Obviously known for being better at the bigger tracks, the super speedways, but he's really upped his game at these smaller sort of tracks. He was in pretty good contention at Bristol for a top 5, and he has struggled a lot of races with just finishing the thing, getting the halfway, getting a good result, but he's gotten a lot better at that this season. He's had some mishaps under green flag pit stops when we've had them, though, so you have to be careful about that if you're Jeremy Miller.
Yeah, I mean, the pace has never been the problem, Finian. He's been fast all season. It's just a matter of containing that pace, modulating it so that he's not a rocket on lap 10 and out of the picture by lap 50. So, he's doing really well tonight in P3 and in contention. Here's the 3 car on pit lane.
Yeah, Andrew Talcott making the trip down to pit lane to service his machine. But, yeah, as you were talking about with Jeremy Miller, it's just been managing the tire wear and tire fall-off as Chad Klinger slow in the background as he's coming down. So, first of the leaders to come on pit lane. Whoa, that's a interesting pit lane entry.
Pit lane, that's for sure. Kick it out sideways. Do a little dance. But this is, not the most challenging pit road to get onto, but you do have to slow down pretty early. And you get off, the transition's a little tough there. You see, he's already sideways before he even gets to the light here. then right here, jams on the brakes, throws all the weight to the nose, and then the rear end just jumps off the ground and steps around on him. But good save there, and he got it down to pit road speed, it looks like.
Yeah, that's the key thing. Jeff Wright also down on pit lane. Ray Massey in behind. Both of them coming in for their pit stops.
60 laps to go, and again, once we hit 50 to 40 laps to go, the laps are going to go extremely quickly here. So we're a lot closer to the end of this race than you would think. Connor mentioned splitting the run in half. Well, yes, but the run started on lap 30, so we're already kind of deep into this race, and this is really getting towards the last little bits here once we get about 15 to 20 laps into this run.
Yeah, I think for Jeff Wright, I think that this is honestly a smart move just to come in early. I think we figured Bailey Turner's going to stay out. They needed to try to pass the 24 somehow. If you couldn't get it done on the track, going to try to get it done on pit lane.
Yeah, curious what the lap times are looking like. What was Bailey Turner's last lap versus his best?
Yeah, so Bailey Turner's last lap, you can see 25.39 was his last lap, and then best was a 24 flat pretty much. So about
it's like a second and a half?
Yeah.
So that's interesting because we might see the 48. Whoa, there's some contact behind him. The 30 and the 88 were banging doors out of turn 2. I think we might see the 48 get the lead in the short term, and that could be an interesting strategy decision. If he gets in front of Turner, can Turner run him back down, and will Turner extend this run in order to make that tire difference more extreme? I think now that the 48 beat him to pit lane, he almost has to, right? Because if you pit now, your tires are not that much better, but you're going to lose that track position.
I think for Turner, this is the best thing to do to stay out. The question is, I don't know if he wants to stay out too long where other drivers are going to start getting a leg up. Notably, Chad Klinger, I think he's definitely going to have to pass Chad Klinger. And in fact, Chad's caught back up to the 48 quite a bit, so he's now also in the mix a little bit more than he was. Remember, he was sitting back in 5th. Whoa, as both him and Glakatis in the background get very close to the wall, but Klinger was kind of sitting out in 5th, distant 5th from the battle, now starting to put himself closer and closer to the front of that battle with Wright, who we expect to be the race leader once this all cycles out.
The other thing you fight in these short track races when you do an overcut like this is you think, 55 laps to go, I got plenty of time. You really don't. You don't have that many laps. So, at a place like Auto Club Speedway, an overcut's great because with 40 or 50 laps to go, that's a lot of time left. You don't have that much time, and the overcut relies on you having enough time at the end of the race to run everybody back down and then pass them. So you're on an offensive strategy there. And with this little left in the race, I'd be nervous about how much time he's got to get that passed on. We already saw how hard the 48 had to try to even be side by side with the 24, let alone pass them. So this is going to be a challenging task for Bailey, but here he is on pit lane with about 53 laps to go.
Yeah, so he's coming down to service his car. Big question is, where is he going to end up in relation to Jeff Wright? There's been about a 5-lap difference on tires between them, so not the biggest difference in the world, but definitely enough, I think, where you will see a notable difference. Eric Hutton now making the trip. I'm genuinely surprised that this man has stayed out one of the longest out of anyone else. The driver we've been talking about for this race, notably not the best at saving his tires. He's stayed out the longest of everyone else, I guess, because he wants to just bolt and push harder than anyone else towards the end of this race.
Well, we've certainly beat that horse dead, so he's going to be mad listening later. Connor, what you got on pit lane?
Just pretty much what I sort of expected after seeing Jeff Wright sort of undercut the leaders. I kind of expected Bailey Turner to run a little bit longer, and that's usually what you'd want to do. After someone undercuts you when they're right behind you, you pretty much know they're going to pass you for the lead, so there's really no point in responding to them immediately. You want to give it a few laps, see if you can get a tire advantage, and hopefully they don't get too far ahead, and you can use that tire advantage to your advantage for the rest of this race if you're Bailey Turner or even Eric Hutton. That's usually what they would want to do by doing that.
Yeah, precisely. We were just chatting about that, Finney. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you can see about a half-lap difference between Jeff Wright and Bailey Turner from the fact that Bailey came in about 5 laps later. So already a big separation, which we expect Bailey to make up, but the question is now Turner's got to be on the attack for the first time this race after he's been dominating the entire first half.
Right, so now you're in traffic. You've got to be offensive and make passes. You haven't seen Bailey Turner pass anybody yet. He started up front and has been up there for the entire race. And 50 laps to go, Connor, before he got in here, we were chatting that, at an auto club, an overcut's a great strategy because, 30, 40 laps to go is a lot of time. Here at Iowa, 50 laps is not very long. So you've really got to hope that you've got a significant lap time difference in order to make up that time that you all gave up on that pit strategy.
Yeah, that is one thing to factor in, the length of the track, as Jeremy Miller, I think, just pit from the lead. Yes, he did, but that is something you have to factor in. They are very quick laps, And I think that's something Jeff Wright was likely thinking about when he was coming down the pit road. He knew he had to do something. He couldn't just follow the 24 in. He had to do that little undercut. And at a track like this, I don't really blame him. 60 laps to go. It's going to fly by pretty quickly with 24, 25-second laps. If he can get a gap big enough on the 24 and the 88 and even the 30 when they pit with around 35 laps to go most recently, I would not be surprised if he holds that lead because they're going to run out of time faster than they might think.
Jeremy, looked like the 24 Bailey Turner and Andrew Telganov almost wiped each other out in turn 2. It looked like Turner dove underneath the 3. The 3 car had to kind of take evasive action, got loose on corner exit, and they almost walloped each other on the back straightaway here at Iowa.
Yeah, and I think the big thing, too, is that we were talking about it all race. The passing has been kind of hard. It's not been easy for these guys to do. So even though Turner is going to have a tire advantage, the passing is going to be difficult. By the time he catches up to Jeff Wright, it's going to be hard to do. So I think we might have seen Jeff Wright just make the winning move. Again, still got the rest of the race to play out, and his internet's been anything but reliable, so anything can happen. Turner's still got to worry through Massey, Klinger. Ryan Chambliss has inherited what should be second place when this all cycles. Actually, he's yet to come in. Oh, no, sorry. We saw him come in, right? Because he was one of the first guys to come in?
Yes. Yeah, so he's got the big-time undercut here, and he's about to lose a spot to Chad Klinger as they battle for what will be second place here with about 45 laps to go. So if Wright were to win this race, he would take the lead in the wins of the season. By no stretch has there been anybody that's been a dominant factor in terms of wins this season. The most that anybody's won is 2 races. Wright and Welker are tied for that currently. Of course, Carlisle has a win, Brian Chambliss has a win, Alex Bell has a win, Adam Cabot has a win. But that's it. There's not a driver that's collecting them left and right. So there's really no clear favorite in terms of numbers of wins. And if Wright continues to run like he has been the last couple of weeks, he will certainly put himself in that position. Klinger through. Chambliss, big slide for the 9. But it's such a long way back. It's 5.5 seconds back to Bailey Turner. But watch that gap. It's coming down a couple tenths a lap.
Yeah, so there you can see there's Wright coming past the line right there. And there's Bailey Turner. So just about, it's come down. It was about almost half a lap. Now it's about a quarter of a lap of separation. That is quite a bit to make up in the end, considering the fact that Turner is going to have to push. Doesn't have a choice at this point. He's going to have to push if he wants to try to catch back up to Wright. I don't quite think it's possible. I mean, we only got 40 laps to go. That's 17 minutes left of racing. That's not a lot of time.
It's certainly not a lot of time. And, the only thing that can really throw a wrench in the mix here for Turner is if there's a caution flag. But I don't think that's likely based on what we've seen so far. The only crash we had was between Jaden Parker and AJ Stravato, or Jalen, early in the race when Parker turned Stravato in turn 1. Stravato overcorrected. It just absolutely decimated the wall in turn 1. So those 2 drivers are the only 2 that have made contact with anything other than the fence tonight. So that's something to keep an eye on. Will we have any late race dives that could throw this race into pandemonium? But so far, everyone's been pretty well behaved here. Here's Eric Hutton. Currently 6th with Andrew Telganov right behind. And Andrew Telganov's season started well, but he's sort of been also around the last couple of weeks, been sort of in the mix, but not really as strong. Looking at his season so far, it was a 6th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 9th, then 11th, and then 2 4ths. So he's getting better, but there was the 4th, 5th, and 6th race of the season, not great for him. Kind of mid-pack. Yeah,
I think what it was is that at the beginning of the season, I think a lot of the guys that have been kind of putting themselves in the front, Wright, Welker, Carlisle, Turner, a lot of those guys are still kind of trying to find their footing, and Telganov was just consistently getting good finishes. Had a slight slump there, that 9th and 11th place at Bristol and North Wilkesboro. Didn't really go well for him those weeks, and this week not looking like the best of weeks. So I think as he's been still, in a little bit of a slump, but still finishing well, a lot of the other guys have been finishing very well. I think that's why we're kind of seeing slowly trickle down the point standings. Again, we still got a reset for the chase coming up in a few weeks. See some guys sliding off the corner.
Yeah, Telganov had a big moment there, and Carlisle's going to slide on through. But you listed the tracks that Telganov didn't run very well at, and they were back at Bristol and North Wilkesboro, 9th and 11th. Those are short tracks. Where are we tonight? A short track, sort of, and he's already outside of the top 5 and almost about to lose a spot outside of the top 10 here with a few more spots. So, big hip check there to the 30 of Miller. So that's something to really keep an eye on. Now, this 30 car is really interesting because he's got the freshest tires of anybody and this is going to offset any tire wear that he'd have later in the run. And look at all the cars that are right ahead of him with just a couple of seconds. I don't think he's going to win this race, but he can certainly get back into the top 5, maybe even podium here in the next 35 laps or so.
Yeah, I was going to say I was really surprised by his strategy. I would have thought he would have been, again, one of the earlier guys to come down pit lane. If not, probably would have come around where Wright and Klinger came down, which I think would have probably been the better strat to pull off. It's come down early. But he stayed out quite a bit, arguably a bit too long, as he makes a move up on the inside of Carwell. I feel like he's going to maybe need a caution to kind of get himself back in the mix. He's 8 seconds back from, over 8 seconds back from the leader.
Yeah, down to the inside of the 71 now. We're closing on 35 laps to go, which means that we are running low on time. Jeff Wright leads this race by 2.6 seconds, and the strategy that he played was perfect. But Bailey Turner, as it stands, continues to reel him in under 4 seconds now, Finian. If the trend continues, I think that 24 car is going to get there.
Yeah, let's take a look at the lap times. Last lap, 24.9 comes across the line, 24.9 again. Jeff Wright, meanwhile, running just about 25.1s. So almost a 110, 210 difference a lap. It's going to be cutting it close. It's possible. But you have to consider, too, the fact that it's going to get slowly. I feel like for Turner, his tires are going to fall maybe a little bit quicker, considering he's pushing. I would imagine he's pushing a little bit harder because he knows he's got to make up the gap. So at the rate he's going, he's going to catch him about 30, 35 laps time, and we have just about that much time remaining on the clock. So not a whole lot of time to get it done.
Yeah, you have to wonder if, as you mentioned, will that differential shrink as he gets closer to the front. But he's made up about another half second in the last 2 or 3 laps, so the math will work out that he will get there, but will it be fast enough? Will the 48 burn his tires off, or will he conserve because he's got a pretty comfortable lead, and the guy directly behind him, Chad Klinger, is not really a huge factor in running him back down. So there's still a lot of time left to go. Miller's up to 7th now, closing in on Massey in 6th. That's about a second and a half that he has until there. Connor on pit lane, what you got?
This is just talking about this battle for the win that we're going to see unfold here. This is kind of what me and you were talking about just a few moments ago, how this race can go by so quickly. Jeff Wright undercut by about 5 to 7 laps and got that big gap on Bailey Turner. Bailey Turner cuts it to 4 seconds, and oh wait, there's only 30 laps to go. So Bailey Turner has to go now. He's already had a few struggles getting by the 9 of Brian Chambliss, who had a big slide out of turn number 2 just there. He's got another teammate of the 48s to navigate with the 09 of Chad Klinger, and the times are leveling off. Bailey Turner running high 24.9s. Jeff Wright only a tenth or 2 slower. It might be close, but also might come down to how quickly the 24 can get by Chad Klinger.
Yeah, I think this next pass is going to be absolutely critical, and how much will Klinger fight this? Or is he willing to maybe let Turner go in order to bring the fight back to him? That might be something we could see, but that requires a lot of foresight. You're playing kind of 4D chess with that move, Finian. I think he's going to fight second place pretty hard here.
Oh yeah, I think he's gonna give it his all. I'm curious to see which way he's gonna go, and if Turner's gonna get potentially held up. Again, the tires, they give you a lot of speed, also give you a lot of maneuverability as far as where you can move, where you can make passes. As we saw the run play out, saw a lot of guys just kind of sticking to the high lane, no one even diving low in the last like 10-20 laps. So we're starting to get to that point. And Turner's going to be running more and more out of options. Again, depending on how hard the 09 is going to defend for that second place.
Well, running out of time, certainly. Here's that battle for second, about 3 seconds behind Jeff Wright.
Tugging down a pit lane.
Oh, does he have some damage to that car? Ooh, that's a DNF for the 3 car, unfortunately. What happened to the 3 of Andrew Telganoff? Was he involved in a collision down here at turn 1? Enters in nice and high.
I might have gone a little bit. Might have gone a little too far back. I think probably the next lap.
Okay, well, right there out of turn 2. Yep, that's a big enough hit, and that could certainly bend your steering. And if that does, that's day over.
Yep, so number 3 is going to be calling it a day. A lot of retirements here at Iowa. We're only left with 10 cars on the track. Since we were talking about Jared Dixon, I think was last time we mentioned the retirements. Had Clifton Cockrell, Dale Adamson, Zack Buchanan ended up calling it a day. I'm not too surprised. He was fall lap or 2 down. Felt like it wasn't much point running left. So he's only on a part-time schedule, and then Telganoff recently. So left with only 10 cars here in the last couple of laps.
Yeah, now for, also the other thing is we race so green that when you get yourself down and out on a strategy, especially for a guy running a part-time schedule, there's not much left to salvage. You know you're going to go green all the way to the end, or maybe you might get a caution with 5 to go, but that doesn't help you. So I get that. I think Adamson and Cockrell probably got in the fence. This place eats race cars, especially out of turn 4. You can get into the wall really easily, and Talganov sort of surprisingly crashed in 2, and it wasn't because he was understeering. It was an oversteer moment, a slip, that led him into the wall. But this is critical here because we're running laps down, and Turner is still behind Klinger, and they have not made up ground on the 48. And in fact, they've actually lost a couple tenths of a second. So if Turner hits a wall here, this pit stop strategy that Wright played out is an undercut. That's a classic way to get the track position at a short track. I like the undercut move at a place like Auto Club or Michigan. I'm overcut all the way, Finian, but on track less than a mile and a half, I want that undercut strategy, and Jeff Wright has played it to perfection. Yeah,
and you talk there, Klinger defending the outside so hard, he ended up scraping the wall on the straightaway, trying to get to the outside quickly. And you see Turner, a little bit of slipping off of turn number 2, trying to find some way around. Diving to the inside, we see mixed success with that. Gets to the quarter panel of the 09.
Well, I like what he did there. You saw he got to the middle of the corner, and then you saw the car stop. The momentum just stopped. What he's doing there is he's applying a little bit of brake just to put some weight on the nose to help the car rotate. It's an interesting strategy. Didn't do enough for him here, but he needs to clear this 09 if he wants any shot of running right down. With 20 laps to go here, and just a couple laps and 3 seconds to make up, it's looking less and less likely. But he needs to dispatch the 09 very, very quickly. There's no one really that's going to bring him any strife. Miller's still a long ways back here, but I think Turner has certainly hit a wall here behind the 09, Connor.
I mean, sorry, before you say anything, Connor, I just want to know Eric Hutton slowly looming in the distance, catching up. Go ahead, Connor.
And Eric Hutton, I think, has a lap or 2 fresher tires in the 24, but this is sort of what might have expected by an overcut that's happening to Bailey Turner. He's getting frustrated. He was already frustrated when he passed another teammate to the 48, Brian Chambliss. Chambliss hung on his right rear, battling him a little bit. Turner wasn't happy with that there, and he's pretty unhappy with Chad Klinger not being able to get by him. Just a lot of frustration starting to build up with 20 laps to go. He's been stuck at about over 3.5 seconds behind the 48. He just tapped the wall out of turn number 2. You never know when frustration might boil over to contact.
Yeah, again, we were just mentioning the gaps here. It was 3 seconds when Turner got to Klinger about 7 or 8 laps ago. It's still 3 seconds. Now it's 3.5 up to Jeff Wright. So Wright is loving this, watching the cars get smaller and smaller in the mirror. Hutton is now in the mix, and he has not been burning up the tires quite as hard as the 2 in front of him. So maybe the 88 could throw his hat in the ring here in the last 20 laps. Finian.
Yeah, I think you definitely can. His car is looking a lot more racy compared to the 24. Oh, you can even look how much time he made up in the middle of the corner. Meanwhile, Bailey's struggling in the middle of the corner now. And again, not sure that the tire's falling off or maybe some sort of wake off the 09. What's going on with him? But the car has definitely stopped going forward.
So out of turn 2 now with 19 laps to go. Turner is now on defense from the 88, not a position I think he thought he'd be in. So certainly dealing with some emotions and frustration at this point. Maybe trying to steal one away at this stage in the season. Now, Bailey Turner's season, we had mentioned, has been really, really good, even with one less entry. But he is still winless this season despite finishing second 3 separate times at Dover, at North Wilkesboro, and at Atlanta. So he has been denied victory a couple of times this season, and this would have been a really good night to turn it around, but just didn't play the strategy quite right. I think maybe if he responded immediately to the 48's pit stop, he could have been in a better spot. But again, I always caution against the overcut strategy at a short track like this. For Miller, it's not even working out great. I don't think he's going to move up past 5th. He was running 3rd most of the night.
Yeah, I think he'll be at least somewhat happy getting a top 5, although may have a small chance of potentially getting more. He's caught up really quickly. Last time I checked, it was about 2.5 seconds. Now it's down to 1.7 seconds. He's actually chasing these 2 guys as they start to battle. A little bit of a slip from Hutton stuck on that inside.
Yeah, if these 2 fight, that could bring the 30 back into the mix, and that would put him P3. So these are the positions that the 30 car needs to validate that strategy call. So maybe really the answer to the overcut was just more extreme of an overcut, and maybe the 24 got caught in no man's land. But right now, that 30 car is reeling them in. 15 laps to go this time through, and the time is running out. We're probably about 6 or 7 minutes away from declaring the end of this thing. And Jeff Wright is gone, 3.5 seconds. Nobody. I mean, Klinger's kept that gap where it has been, but it's just not closing at all.
Yeah, no, Klinger doesn't really have the pace to match the 48, but it's been a decent run for him. I think he's happy that Hutton showed up. He's just been able to kind of check out and try to drive away from this battle. as Hutton still throwing it up that inside, and as they do that, Miller now 1.3 seconds back.
Into turn one, the 48 is a long way clear of this battle, but it's now for third that these two fight, the 24 and 88. Two Chevrolets fighting ahead of the Supra of Miller, who's just a little bit behind them. And I think if that 30 car gets there, this could be a little bit wild. And now you also have to be thinking, if you're Jeff Wright, you've got this advantage. Oh, whoa, okay, scared me. Klinger's gap shot down to 2 seconds, I think, from an internet issue there. But if Jeff Wright has to defend, if there's a caution flag, that really changes things. If we get a yellow the last couple laps, and it could start from here. This catalyst could be the 30 to some wild racing here in the last couple minutes.
Yeah, I'm just curious how much of a threat Hutton's going to pose, if he's going to get physical with the 24. I don't quite think so. If I'm not mistaken, these guys are teammates. They are, so I think they're going to play it relatively nice.
Don't want to crash your teammate, but you also don't want to finish behind him either. And sometimes those things are mutually exclusive. So sometimes you got to wreck your teammate, you know? They'll understand someday. Here comes the 88 to the inside. And he's going to clear him, I think. He does. The 24 lets him go, and he's going to cross the motor on the exit of the corner. That was a really strong move by the 24 returner. But all this is doing is bringing that magenta car right into the mix in turn one, 11 to go.
Oh, there's a bit of a bump from the 88 starting to get physical.
Yeah, and as they do this, the frustrations and tempers are only going to rise. Sometimes it's even worse to get hit by your teammate because you're expecting it from everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not the guy on your team.
Especially when you're trying to, they're going to soon have to start fighting for the guy that's catching them in behind. Here's where German Miller's at, and he's essentially there with 10 to go.
Yeah, 10 laps left here at Iowa, and Miller has got a front row seat for a teammate-on-teammate battle. Friendly fire from the Chevrolet camp tonight. And they're door-to-door about 1.5 foot apart down the back straightaway, and the 30 car is loving this because when he gets here, he's still got fresher tires. He's going to make this pass look easy if these two continue to fight each other and don't look out the mirrors.
Well, question for Miller is where do you go? Because I don't think he wants to make it
over
3
the top
wide.
of him, Lightning McQueen style.
Bounce off the wall side.
Ka-chow. He might not have to pass him if they crash each other. Big slide by the 88 into turn 3. You can do 3 wide around here. We saw it on a restart earlier.
Oh, you definitely can. I don't think they're going to let him, though. I don't think they're really going to get it. I don't think they're going to give him the opportunity. Here comes Miller with a fantastic run off of turn 4. Going to try to look at the inside. Is it enough, though, to make it dive? Does he have enough grip to stick that car on the bottom? Wow.
Oh, he's going to hold the brakes, too. He's going to get hammered by the 24. Strong move, though. That was great. The fact that he pulled through on the bottom and then hit the brakes so he didn't slide up the track, that was really well calculated by the 30. Here, look at this again. He's going to dive up underneath the 24. He's going to see that he's going to slide, and he's going to do the crossover, slams the brake, denies the crossover. He knew he was going to get hit there, but that was a really well-calculated move, and that was going to put him fourth, and actually this strategy is really going to pay out for him. It's not going to be a win, but it is going to be as good as third if he can get one more.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure he's definitely trying to push. He's going to try to catch up to Hutton. I mean, hey, he can even potentially catch up to Klinger. I don't think so. It may be a bit more of a stretch, but definitely he's got third in his sights. You see the back end starting to slide a bit because he's forcing the car to his bidding.
Well, we're running out of laps, that's for sure. And Will Miller be able to get around the 88 as easily. The reason why he caught this group was because they were fighting, but now the 88's got clear track. He's still fighting the car, but will he have to fight somebody else on the racetrack? That's yet to be seen. This time through 5 laps to go for the race leader, Jeff Wright, who has been in command since the pit stop sequence and has not looked back.
Yeah, absolutely. He's done a fantastic job just staying out in the lead. Made a perfect strategy call. He's not going to lead the most laps tonight, but I don't think he's going to care. He's going to get another W. He'll be the first driver to get 3 wins this season. He's currently tied with Welker at 2 wins apiece. Break that tie.
So he's only got to do 4 more revolutions around Iowa Speedway, and behind them, Klinger is still clear of the 88, but the 30 car has dropped off the tailpipes of the 88 car, so we might have our top 5 set as they are if things continue. I will say that Bailey Turner is not inconceivably far behind Miller if he wanted to refire that battle before the end, but I think everyone's kind of used up the wick on their candle at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say, everyone's about 50-some-odd laps into the run. I can't mention the tires are doing particularly well in these last 2 laps. I think at this point they want to just finish this thing out, especially for Bailey Turner. I'm sure he's going to be really frustrated because he essentially had this race in the bag. We were looking at it earlier. I'll pull it up again. Led 92 laps this race, and unfortunately he's going to come home empty-handed.
That's so frustrating, too. How many laps has Wright led? 92 for Turner.
I think 40-ish, yeah, 41.
41, yeah. So
45 in total by the check flag.
Yeah, less than half of the ones that the 24 has led, which is frustrating if you're Bailey Turner, but that's just the reality of sometimes you play the strategy wrong. Turner had the pace, but the pace isn't going to matter if you play the strategy wrong, and that's what he did tonight. Yeah,
Wright working his way through 3 and 4, and he's going to be happy, man, because that means he's not going to see a yellow once he gets to the line. White flag in the air for the 48.
Yeah, white flag from the main flag stand here in Newton, Iowa. Iowa Speedway one more time around, 3/4 of a mile for Jeff Wright, the number 48. This season he's had all sorts of trials and tribulations in qualifying, but race pace has never been the problem. He started 5th tonight, thought better of the fuel strategy, the tire strategy, undercut the number 24, and for Jeff Wright, it'll be his magic 3rd win of the season. It will be a season high number for Jeff Wright. He'll pick it up and now have the most wins of anybody in 2022. Chad Klinger 2nd, then it's Eric Hutton, Jeremy Miller, Bailey Turner, your top 5, then Ray Massey, Ryan Carwile, Brian Chambliss, Casey Lakatos, and David Mott Jr., your top 10. Talganoff, Buchanan, Adamson, Cockrell, Dixon, Parker, and Stravato round out the rest of the field, but for the 48, job well done. That all came down to when you pit. It was not that he had a faster car tonight, Finian, it's that he had a smarter driver.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really solid job. Just, again, that strategy, Cole, we saw how passing was going to be coming at a premium, and Wright took advantage of that, knowing full well what was going to happen. Now he's going to light him up.
Yeah, burn it down here, Connor.
And damage the car.
Backed it in the fence. That's not going to pass inspection. As he backs it in. Connor, your thoughts there? Jeff Wright just had that strategy figured out.
Yeah, I think he kind of knew that the undercut was going to work, no doubt about it. Less time worked in his favor. Time eventually ran out. He also had a little bit of help from the drivers on his same strategy. Bailey Turner just had too much trouble getting by the guys like the 09 and the 9. Just those Bailey Turner. We saw him wear the tires out. We saw how hard his pace dropped. He just didn't have the tire at the end to even chase down to 48. Even if he passed those guys, I don't know if he would have. And it's a big win for Jeff. Once again, he takes that all-time mark for most Outsiders Racing League wins right back from Adam Cabot out of a tie again. Now he's at 15, so we'll see if Adam Cabot tries to get back into a race car to tie it again.
Bet he will. Here's a look at the race results. Jeff Wright, Chad Klinger, Eric Hutton, Miller, and Turner, your top 5. Pretty competitive race tonight. Not a ton of passing in the midfield. There was a lot of action during the pit stop sequence, but tonight it seemed like you kind of had what you had, and only the top 10 drivers finished the race after 17 starters. So, Finian, lots of attrition throughout the field, but that's something you can expect coming to Iowa.
I was going to say, everyone pretty much outside the top 10. You can see Talganoff, Buchanan, Adamson, Cockrell, Dixon. Stravato was a big one. I think I'm curious to see what he could have done. I'm not sure if he necessarily had a race-winning car. I think he had a decent car, potentially would have finished inside the top 5, but never got to see what he could do as he ended up finishing checking out of the race early on.
Well, one of the drivers that led 92 laps tonight but did not win, Bailey Turner, the number 24. Bailey, this had to be a frustrating evening for you, leading the most laps by more than 2 times the next best driver, but the strategy didn't quite play out in your favor.
Yeah, I got a taste of my own medicine there with how bad the dirty air really was. I knew with the fresher tires that I had to make time, and then just pushing too hard, trying to get past Chad. He was running the perfect line to make sure that I couldn't get to his right rear, and honestly, that's what made the difference right there. Just couldn't get by him, and then once Eric got to me, then it was, okay, I got to drive defensive again, and by then the tires were just gone. And Eric, I think he perfected that whole slide job move on the first run. So when he got past me, I knew Miller was on fresher tires than him. I was just like, all right, I'm just going to let him go and see if those two will battle it out. But overall, happy with the day. Got some points, and, consistency is what matters here. So hopefully, for the next few weeks, we can try to improve and get to victory lane.
Well, certainly one less start, not helping in the points. Otherwise, you'd be right up in the mix with the consistency you've had. So best of luck to you in the next week. We'll see you at Michigan in 1 week's time.
Perfect. See you guys. Thanks.
See ya. Now moving on to 3rd place, Eric Hutton, who was just shy of snagging a 2nd place. Had a battle with your teammate there towards the end, Eric, but weren't able to come out on top of the race. Certainly grab yourself a podium. Not a bad night, a top 5 for the 88 crew. Take us through your evening and the battles you had, because it looked like you were just shy of having a race-winning run tonight.
Yeah, had a lot of speed, I thought, and had a good run that first run to the caution, and then got stuck behind that slower car, and it kind of just got back further than I wanted to. It's just impossible to pass. You can't pass on the bottom at all, and yeah, I wasn't sure how to play the pit strategy right, and so ended up third. Had a lot of fun battling Bailey, even though it was frustrating for the both of us trying to pass. But yeah, overall fun night. Just wish it was more than one line.
Well, Eric Hutton will tie his best finish of the season. That is a third, Eric. Congratulations, and we'll see you next week at Michigan.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Moving on now to second place, Chad Klinger in the 09, who stole a second place. That was a fun battle all through the night in the 09 Sherwin-Williams Chevrolet. Chad, congratulations, first of all. A couple seconds shy of grabbing a victory, but you had a hard-fought battle this evening to finish up inside the top 5.
Yeah, it's great to get a second place. I kind of expected a sixth place. When Brian pit, I kind of went a little earlier than I expected to pit the road, and it kind of paid off. So he Bailey could not pass me at the end, but it was a hard-fought battle all night.
Well, it certainly paid off for you, P2. Did you learn anything tonight? I mean, this is our last, people argue that this isn't really a short track, but this is our last sub-1 mile track of the year. Did you learn anything tonight that you could apply to the rest of the rounds? Because we go to some bigger tracks for the rest of the year. Can any of this translate to places like Michigan or Darlington?
Yes and no. Mainly no, because they are such different tracks. But racing around the same guys every week, you learn how they drive. You can drive differently at each track compared to them. So it does vary track per track, but it is a short track versus a mile and a half.
Well, Chad, congratulations. A really strong run tonight. Started fourth, finished second in the number 09. Thanks for chatting with us, and best of luck to you next week at Michigan.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Moving on now, the winningest driver of the ORL season in 2022. It's Jeff Wright, his third win on the year. And Jeff, tonight the qualifying effort was better. First of all, that puts you in a better position. But it came down to strategy and passing the 24 in pit lane, and then you just never looked back. Take us through your night, the strategy call, and how confident were you that you made the right one?
Well, I feel like that was really the only decision I had. If I was going to win the race, I was doing everything I could to try to get around Bailey there. I wasn't holding back at all, so it definitely wasn't easy tonight. It was just really hard to pass on the bottom, and Bailey, he was really running kind of a different line typically than what we see here at Iowa. He was really arcing it in really big, cutting it down, and so I just kind of started doing what Bailey was doing, but I just wasn't going to get around him. I could get side by side with him here and there, but he just would pull me on exit. So I knew we had to do something different, so that's why I decided to short pit him, because yeah, we definitely weren't going to outrun him tonight if we didn't get the track position and get out ahead of him on a pit road for sure. But yeah, really cool to win here at Iowa. This isn't a place I feel like I do very well a lot. I don't think my stats are very good here in ORL. So and we're 2 for 2 in this black cobalt paint scheme, so that's pretty awesome.
Well, I have good news and bad news for you. The good news is you've won every short track race there is this season. The bad news is that means there's no more left. So as you look forward to some of the bigger tracks on the season, all 3 of your wins have been on tracks sub a mile. Do you think you can replicate that success at the bigger tracks?
Yeah, I hope so. Like you said, the short tracks are definitely where I'm the most comfortable and most confident at. Unfortunately, yeah, we don't have any more. I think we were going to have another short track if Auto Club was going to go through that transition, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon or if ever. So, yeah, some of the bigger tracks, speedways, I feel like I can run decently at, but yeah, looking at the rest of the schedule, there's not a ton of excitement from me just looking at the tracks that we're going to, but definitely going to give it all we can here, and winning this race tonight, that's going to put us in a pretty good spot here for the points. I know Mitch, he missed tonight, so that's going to help us pull on him a little bit, but yeah, we're just going to have to do our best every week. Winning in this league is not easy at all. There's a lot of really competitive guys, so anytime you can get a win here, it's really big.
Well, you put yourself in position as a championship favorite for this season. You got the most wins this season in 2022. So, Jeff, congratulations. We'll see you next week in Michigan.
Thanks, Kyle. We'll see you.
Thank you. All right, guys, wrapping things up. Connor, your final thoughts. Jeff Wright has swept the sub-1 mile tracks on the calendar. There's no more for him, so he's going to have to find some magic at the bigger places.
Definitely going to be dubbed the short track king for the rest of the season, but we'll see if he can conquer any of the other sorts of racetracks. We still, even though we don't have any more short tracks left on the schedule, we still have a variety of tracks. We have sort of smaller tracks, not mile and a halves, but not short tracks like Nashville and Darlington coming up in 2 and 3 weeks' time. We also have Michigan and Auto Club's the finale. Those are some different tracks. We still have a Super Speedway in Talladega, Indy Road Course, Kansas and Vegas. We still have variety left, but he has shown speed at those types of tracks, but he hasn't gotten a win quite yet. You think once we get to the chase, he's going to have to rattle off a few wins at some different tracks to get that championship that he wants. So we'll have to see how he performs for this last half of the season, but he's looking like the guy to beat so far.
Well, he certainly has put himself in position. Finian, final thoughts on Iowa. Competitive race this evening. Maybe not as much shuffling as we would have thought. Drivers fighting understeer in mid-corner, oversteer on exit. But at the end of the day, strategy calls won this race. And I think you could say that that's an important lesson for the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a big blunder on Bailey's part for not coming in. Of course, hindsight's 2020. He easily could have got his first win of the season, but unfortunately, he's going to have to wait just a little bit longer. But still, I think regardless, we've been seeing a lot of the same guys up near the front of the field, namely that 24. Even though he doesn't have a win, he's been consistently near the front, fighting for wins week in, week out. Definitely want to keep an eye on. I'm sure at some point we're going to see him in victory lane.
Yeah, Turner is certainly going to have a competitive hat to throw in the ring there at the end of the season. That's going to do it for Outsider Racing League tonight from Iowa Speedway. In 1 week's time, we're going to do Battle from Michigan. I think we don't have anything going on the next week. I think it's pretty quiet on Sim TV, so make sure you tune in next Saturday night for the Outsider Racing League Round 10 for Michigan Speedway. Connor Horn in the pits, Finian DeCuna in the booth with me, Kyle Heyer. We'll see you next week at 10 p.m. Eastern.